I mean, yeah.
Volume 4, January the 6th, 1900, Offering Up Our Sufferings. I remembered that today is the Epiphany, and on the example of the Holy Magi, I was to offer something to baby Jesus. But I saw myself as having nothing to give him. So in seeing my misery, the thought came to me of offering my body as myrrh, with all the sufferings of the 12 years in which I had been in bed, ready to suffer and to remain there as long as he pleased. As gold, the pain I feel when he deprives me of his presence, which is the most painful and sorrowful thing for me. As incense, my poor prayers, united to those of the Queen Mama, so that they might be more acceptable to baby Jesus. So I made the offering with all the confidence that the baby would accept everything.
Yes, yes. So the three magi, which we just celebrated. So notice Louisa chose myrrh for the suffering of her body. That's the stigmata she's going through, the pain. Incense for her prayer, and then for gold she used the greatest of her suffering, the privation of Jesus. She used it as gold. So she took the opportunity to offer her pain. And sometimes we are in pain, we are in suffering, we are disturbed, but we need to give that to the Lord. That's precious to give to the Lord so that he will give us his peace, because disturbance, anxiety will stop God acting in you. He's the King of Peace. He said to this Louisa many times when Louisa reached the complete state and she started a little bit worrying. She's like, Louisa, stop, 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 stop. Go back to your peace. The damage you will do if you exit is beyond your imagination. Go back. I cannot operate. When you're disturbed, I'm the King of Peace. You know, look at the Lord in his passion. He was in control. Even though he was suffering greatly, he was in control. In control. And we see in Mel Gibson movie when they kept shoving him and pushing him on the way across, and then on the mountain they were telling him, get on the cross, get on the cross. It's like a barrier between them and him, and he on his own accord mounted the cross. He's in control. He is in control. Every blow, every hit he received, he knew about. He was in control. He was at peace. He was the king. And that's why John tells us that was the seat of his glory on the cross. So yes, even our pain, we do them in the divine will. Barry, you had a question?
You kind of answered it, but you were saying don't be in anxiety. What I mean is, say if you think you're doing the divine will, like you've got a situation where you've got to be like, I've got to deal with this very difficult situation. It's causing me a lot of anxiety and disturbance. But that's I have to shut my mouth or whatever it is, will be an agent of peace and tolerate people doing things to me. It's causing me a lot of anxiety. I ask God for peace, but that's what I mean is that in order to do the divine will, you will suffer anxiety. So
yes, so give this anxiety to the Lord. And the thing, this is what we do when we suffer. We turn our eyes away from ourselves and we look at Jesus suffering in us. Because when somebody is causing you harm, physically or emotionally or psychologically or spiritually, what they're really doing is they're causing Jesus harm within you. And the harm, the hurt that Jesus is suffering is far greater than your hurt, because he is all love. So he endures it more. Now, when we suffer, we turn our eyes away from ourselves. Rather than say, poor me suffering, we look at Jesus within us and we say, poor Jesus suffering in me, being hurt. And we also say, poor Jesus suffering in the person inflicting the pain, because he's suffering because of that person as well. And when you do that, An exchange takes place. You are focusing on Jesus' pain, and then he in turn will console your pain and will deal with that situation. So Jesus is now going to deal with that situation and bring good out of it. So physically, you need to physically move yourself away from the person who's causing this, but you don't retaliate. You are now focusing on Jesus. And when you're focusing on Jesus, what will happen is Jesus will deal with the situation. Jesus will console you and will give you the grace to forgive and not to bear grudges, and to offer your very suffering united with him for the very ones that are inflicting the pain. And this is the expression of charity to the max, to the summit. When you give your pain to convert those who are inflicting them, that's the greatest act. Yeah, for the ones, for your enemies. Yeah, they're not enemies really, because God, as long as they can draw breath, God can convert them. Our enemies only the devils and Satan and sin. Others who live are influenced by Satan, by the evil ones. They influenced by them, and they allowing themselves to be instruments of the evil one, and they are slaves of their sins and addiction. They are idols which are causing them pain and causing others pain. But they themselves are their worst enemy, if you think about it.
Definitely.
They themselves are their worst enemy, because they are the one inflicting sorrows and pain to their own soul. And if they end up in hell, they will do that non-stop forever in hell. So they are their worst enemies. So we've got to have compassion on them by turning our focus to Jesus' suffering in us and in them. Everything is turned upside down. So don't take my word for it. Try it, put it to practice, and you will see. You will see that you will be able to deal with any pain, any situation, by focusing on Jesus. And I'll give you a concrete example with Annie. Annie, would you come and give us a few minutes talk? Sit here and give us a few minutes talk. Father, you can sit. She can sit in my place. So, yeah, fine. Yes. So Annie will tell you a few words. You're fine. You're good. You're good. Yeah. We'll tell a few words about her history, and she had this cross as well. Of course, when we have a cross, we like, oh, not again. But we've got to overcome that and say, fiat, Lord, so be it if it's your will. And that's a concrete example of that.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone online. And what happened to me recently was, a long time ago, I had cancer 18 years ago, very serious cancer, and I had to have a hysterectomy. And after that hysterectomy, the doctor who did the operation told me it was the cancer was that much away from all my organs. And I had a lot of prayer at that time and a lot of trust in God. And I got over it, thank God. And I've had nothing about it for 18 years. So sometime last year, about 6 months ago, I was told I had a blood test, not for cancer or anything, just a general blood test, but they said the cancer levels in it had gone up. And the first nurse who took this blood, she dismissed it. So, and then I had to go and have another blood test for something else. And again, they said, oh, your cancer, whatever, is raised. And this nurse said, well, I think we should investigate. So I went back to the hospital where I'd had the hysterectomy. And they'd actually lost all my notes. So but they decided to do some tests. So I had 3 different scans, and they examined me and everything. And on the last test, because I couldn't really find anything. So on the last test, they said that there were some lesions on the old scar tissue, and that could be causing something. And they sort of suggested it was in my peritoneum or something, which is I looked it up, it's a really rare cancer, so that really frightened me. And I did just leave it in God's hands, and I had to wait for the tests. And when I got the letter from the hospital, it said, come in for the results of this last test and bring your husband with you and be prepared to stay in the hospital for 3 or 4 hours going to different departments. So, of course, I was then quite worried because of, bringing the husband with me. I thought they wouldn't say that unless it was something bad, So this is all over Christmas, which is weird because the first one was all over Christmas as well. But I did leave it in God's hands and in his divine will, because that's all we can do, especially if we're living in the divine will. God is everything. So I wasn't that worried about it, leaving it with him. I probably had a couple of nights where I worried a little bit, but I couldn't sleep very well. But I do just try and give it to the Lord all the time. And so I went to the hospital just 2 days ago, in fact, to get the results with my husband, and they said to me everything was fine. Thanks be to God.
Praise God.
There's nothing to worry about.
Praise God.
And I did have a lot of prayer. I didn't actually tell anyone not till about Christmas time, and then people started praying for me, so I had a lot of prayer. And I would always suggest that if you do have anything like this, or worry about your health, do tell people and get a lot of prayer said for you, because the first time I had so much prayer and I felt that really bolstered me, as well as giving it over to the Lord and having trust in the Lord, which you really must do, because it's in his hands. There is nothing you can do.
And so on a practical, do you just pray, I give this to you? Sorry, how do you hand that out? What do you mean? Do you hand that over? What do you?
I would just say, Lord, my health is in your hands, and I give it to you. Whatever you want, it's your will, not mine.
Would you keep saying that and keep saying that?
Yes, I would.
Yourself, because it's difficult to.
It is, but I would say it's not my will, it's yours. And if you, I was always told by a priest, this was out of divine will years ago, that we shouldn't ask for sufferings. We shouldn't, if we get them, we offer them up, but we shouldn't ask for them, because that's something for the Lord to give us, and it's can be quite dangerous to ask. I don't know what you would say about that.
Yes.
It depends on the soul.
It depends on the soul.
Depends on the soul. Yeah.
Like Louis says, different case.
I don't ask for sufferings.
Yeah.
But I suppose what he gives us is probably quite enough. But it is really important to hand them over. I mean, and I always do. And I've had a lot of miracles through handing things over to Jesus. I've told Wissam quite a few. And God just always comes up trumps. He really does. Just hand it over and fall into his arms.
Yes. And the confidence you had in him.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about the trust you had? Like, Jesus, I'll go through it with you if it needs to be. I'll suffer with you. Whatever road you take, we'll do it together. Can you speak about that trust you had in him?
Yeah, I do trust in Jesus. The best way to say that is before this I had a hernia, and I used to get terrible pain from that, really, really bad pain. And it was frightening pain, that you thought you were going to die almost. So if that happened, I'd had to go to bed immediately and lie down in agony, and I would just talk to Jesus the whole time, and I would say, Jesus, I give you this suffering. I'm suffering with you, and I offer it up for everybody, because that's what it's for. You have to give it to everybody, as you were saying earlier today. And you use that pain for everyone else. And when you do that, the minute you hand it over, the suffering seems to lessen.
Yes. Sweeten, isn't it?
Yes, it's sweetened. It
sweetened.
Really is.
It is sweetened.
It really, really is. And thank God, I've learned that quite a long time ago in my life. And Divine Will just confirms it more and more. Hand it over and give it to him for other people. And
it
really makes it
bearable, isn't it?
It becomes bearable.
It becomes bearable.
Yeah. And we don't know the reasons for it. Now, Sometimes you do, but most of the time you don't know the reasons. But I can tell you, when you get to heaven and you see those sufferings, boy,
Yes, yes.
that's all I can say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Annie.
Right, thank you.
Yes. So Saint Teresa of Avila, she appeared to her nuns after she went home in heaven, and she said, if I could come back on earth again, I can't. The rules are rules. I can't come back. My time is up. But if I could come back again, maybe half an hour, uh, I'd rather have a big suffering on earth, because now I can see the value of each one of my suffering. And boy, oh boy, what did it bring? So if I could come back again, Lord, give me the severest suffering on earth. That's what I'd love to do again. So because she could see now, and God doesn't love suffering. He did not create us to suffer. When he created the world with Adam and Eve to live in his divine world, there was no pain, no viruses, no COVID-19, nothing. No, nothing. Everything was perfect. We didn't have extreme weathers. We didn't have fire. We pray for the fires in California. Lord, extinguish them. We didn't have hurricanes like in Florida. In Florida, yes. We didn't have earthquakes. We didn't have any of this, But this came because of sin, original sin, and then the sins afterwards. So God doesn't like pain. He doesn't want us to suffer. And most of the time, God is so misunderstood. As Teresa of Lisieux says, he's so misunderstood. Poor God. He's so misunderstood. She says, when there is pain, God turns his head. And when he's forced, she uses the word force, to give some suffering to someone because they are on their way to hell, they need it to wake them up. She says, he turns his head, he gives, and he turns his head. He doesn't want to see. That is our God. He's a God of love. He does not enjoy pain and suffering. He doesn't like it. But we brought it. We brought it by our sins, starting with Adam and Eve. We brought it in. That was not the design, the original design. And now as we go back to the Garden of Eden with the new earth, which John Paul II, Saint John Paul II says, the return to the era of holiness, the era of unification, this era that will come to of the divine world, will be go back to this, where illnesses will be healed, where cancer will disappear, where it will be a flourished earth, where we won't have these natural disasters anymore. We are going back. And by us living in the divine world, by more and more people embracing God working through them, we speed up that process. We speed up that renewal. That's why it's so vital that we put this as top priority. And whatever we go through, like Annie, her suffering, whatever we go through, fiat, Lord, fiat, let it be, let it be. Have confidence in him, have confidence. And so we read the next paragraph with confidence, because confidence, Jesus put that in the same paragraph on suffering because of a reason. It's linked to have confidence in him. Yes, Father. The bottom of page 2. Yeah.
Jesus seemed to accept my poor offerings with great pleasure, but what he enjoyed the most was the confidence with which I had offered them. Then he said to me, confidence has two arms. With one, it embraces my humanity, and it uses my humanity as a staircase in order to ascend to my divinity. With the other, it embraces the divinity and draws from it celestial graces in torrents, in such a way that the soul remains all inundated within the divine being. When the soul is confident, she is certain to obtain what she asks. I let my arms be bound. I let my I let her do whatever she wants. I let her penetrate even into my heart, and I let her take by herself that which she has asked from me. If I did not do so, I would feel myself in a state of violence.
Because of his love. Because of his love. His love is everything for him. I would feel myself in violence if I don't do that for her. Because love, Jesus says, love is like, you don't know what love is for me. Love is like this. Love keeps saying to me, why did you create her? Why did you create her if you don't give her gifts? Why did you create her? Why did you create her? Give her gifts, give her gifts, give her, that nagging, thing, like, in a loving way. And in one entry, he uses very difficult words, which like a tyrant, but not a bad tyrant, like someone. Love for me is like everything for me, and love is like, give her, give him, your child. It's your child, but it's your child. It's your child. More graces, more gifts, more love. So that is the nature of our God. So what have we got to fear if that is our God? He wants our trust. He wants our trust. And he says to Saint Faustina, who he speaks a lot about trust, the very prayer of the Divine Mercy, Jesus, I trust in you, signature at the bottom of the picture, Jesus, I trust in you. The very word is all about trust. And he says, what hurts me most is not the sin. What hurts me most is the lack of love, the lack of trust, because you trust someone whom that person love you, right? You don't have a trouble trusting a loving father or a loving mother, because they love you and they want their good. But you have a trouble trusting someone who does not love you, because you don't know if they want your good. So by not trusting the Lord, it means you doubt his love. You don't believe in his love. Really, that is what it's saying. Because if I love you, I trust you. When you trust someone, you're like open book to them. You're not afraid to tell your secret to the person you trust, because they're not going to betray you. They're not going to use the secrets that you shared with them and use it to their advantage, or to bully you or blackmail you, etc. They're not going to do that because they love you. So when there is no trust, it means there's lack of love. And that hurts Jesus most, more than the sin themselves, because his very nature is love. So what hurt him most is love, sense of love. And in the garden of Gethsemane, in those 3 hours of his passion in the garden, the greatest pain he had, the pain he called it the lance, the spear of love, that was his greatest pain. And he described it like fire. He says, well, I'm crucified, it's only 3 nails and a crown of thorns on the head. But come and see what's going on inside, what love is doing. Not the 3 nails, but a nail in every cell, a nail of every part of my being. Not a thorn in just the head, a thorn everywhere. Come and see, not scourges on the back and the front, only scourges everywhere. That is love. That is what love does. So Jesus, I trust in you, like Faustina said, Jesus, I trust in you. And few lessons from Faustina before we jump into Saint Teresa of Lisieux, and that's my favorite, Teresa of Lisieux. She has a lot to teach us, but a little bit of Saint Faustina, because Saint Faustina received the gift of living in the divine world. She called it living host, she called it. She received, and her confessor, Father Michael Soposhko, who learned about, who read the diaries, received that gift through her, through Faustina. Yeah, Father Michael Soposhko. Okay, Father, if you read to us a bit of lessons about confidence and trust. My daughter.
Yeah. My daughter, your confidence and love restrain my justice, and I cannot inflict punishment because you hinder me from doing so. Oh, how great is the power of a soul filled with confidence.
So it hinders my justice. And he says the same to Louisa. You tie my hands, Louisa. I cannot act. So I have to hide away from you to get to administrate my justice. You know, there is a war supposed to be 10 years. He goes to Louisa, it's halved. Ah, Louisa, you tie my hands. You tie my hands because of love. So she's satisfied for justice. So the same we say it here to Faustina, you limit, you restrain my justice. And that's what he's doing with us, with this gift. We are restraining God's justice. We are disarming God's justice because these flames of love, this pressure in the heart of God is being released through us. And therefore, we are disarming divine justice. So see how much good he's doing through us. So that suffering of Annie, because she did it in the divine will, letting God operate, how much relief she gave to God, how much help she gave to anyone who is in that state. Am I get cancer? And what I'm gonna get? That anxiety, that state of what I'm gonna happen? What is gonna happen to my family, etc. That state which many go through. Diagnosis of the illness. So how much help the Lord used her because she opened up. She used her heart. Lord, let work in me. I let you operate in me. So he's done a great good. And at the end, there was nothing. But she's gone through the fiat. She put her heart into it, her thoughts into it. She said, I surrender. It comes, it doesn't come. I surrender. I surrender. Whatever. Wherever that road leads, we'll walk it together, Lord. That's the difference. And in the next one, Father,
I favor humble souls with my confidence.
I favor humble souls with my confidence. So he's linking confidence with humility as well. So with humility and confidence, they walk hand in hand. And we see that in Saint Therese of Lisieux. Confidence and humility. The little way, she calls it. The little way. The little way of what? The little way of trusting Jesus. I'm too little. In her days, they had this invention of the elevator. Now we have it everywhere. But in her days, they were just starting with the elevator. She said, Lord, I'm too little to climb up the stairs. I'm not a giant saint, but your hands are my lift. I'll just get in and you lift me to the top. Yeah. That did not make her complacent in pursuing holiness. She didn't just sit down and kick back and, yeah, okay, Lord, you do all the work and I'm just going to sit down and have ice cream or, enjoy myself, so to speak. No, that made her more confident in him. She still did what she's supposed to do, but she trusted that he will make her holy.